People never believed that the two brothers who have loved themselves so much for a very long time would ever fight or argue. But the two brothers, Lekan and Tunde Ajani, were once the heart and soul of the community. They weren't twins, but many thought they were. You couldn't mention one without the other. As boys, they fetched water together, played Ayo under the mango tree, and helped their father, Baba Ajani, on the farm. They even bathed in the village stream with one piece of soap and one towel between them. Their bond was more than blood. It was sacred. Their mother, before her passing, often said, "If one of them cries, the other feels the tear. That's how close they are." And Baba Ajani, he was a proud man. He would sit on a stool, chewing kola nut, and say with his chest out, "If I die today, my sons will not only bury me, they'll bury my legacy together." Hand in hand, and for a long time, that looked true. Until Baba Ajani died. It was a rainy afternoon. The clouds had turned dark too early. He had gone to check the cocoa trees after lunch and never returned. They found him lying peacefully between two of the largest trees, a hoe in one hand and prayer beads in the other. Cause of death? Stroke. No signs, no warning, just gone. The entire village mourned. The funeral was one of the biggest in Aponrin's history. Elders from neighbouring communities came to pay respects. Praise singers reminded everyone that Baba Ajani was a good man, a man who worked hard, gave to the poor, and raised two fine sons. But they also noticed something else that day. There was no will, no written document, no legal sharing of property. Only the family compound and a large piece of farmland stretching far into the bush. "It doesn't matter," Lekan said during the mourning period, clapping a hand over Tunda's shoulder. "We'll share it like brothers." Tunda smiled. "We're not just brothers, we're the same blood. I trust you." For a while, things went well. Lekan took the front half of the land, which faced the main road. Tunde took the back end, which had rich soil and was closer to the stream. They worked in peace, even shared farming tools. They helped each other dig ridges, plant yam, and till the earth. But everything began to change the day Lekan brought a woman home. Her name was Mobalaji. She was from a nearby town, educated, fair-skinned and sharp-tongued. Everyone in the village whispered about her beauty, her fitted gowns, her expensive weaves, and her bold way of speaking. "Lekan Don Hammer," the village boys joked. Tunde was happy for his brother. He danced during the traditional wedding, even gave part of his harvest as bride price contribution. But 3 weeks after the wedding, things began to shift. It was subtle at first. Lekan would no longer answer when Tunde greeted him from across the farm. When they once sat together every evening under the cashew tree, Lekan now preferred to stay indoors with Mobalaji. Then came the whispers. Late at night, Mobalaji would slide close to Lekan and say, "You're the elder, yet your younger brother is acting like your mate. Why does he have an equal share of your father's land?" Lekan would chuckle. "It's not like that. We agreed. The land is big enough for both of us." But Mobalaji would lean in closer, her voice like a dagger dressed in silk. "Wake up, my husband. That boy will soon sell your land from under you. If you don't act now, you'll be the one begging him for harvest later." And slowly, her poison seeped into his mind. Soon, he stopped sharing farming tools. Then, he started sending boys to monitor which parts of the land Tunda was cultivating. One day, Tunda returned from the stream to find that the boundary lines had been shifted. The stakes marking his portion had been moved forward into his section. Confused, he walked to Lekan's compound. "Brother, did anyone touch the boundary stakes?" Lekan didn't even look at him. He sipped his palm wine and said, "I moved them." "That portion is part of my inheritance." Tunde's mouth opened. "But we agreed. That space belongs to my half." Lekan stood, his voice rising. "Do you have any papers? Any proof? Do you want to fight me over ordinary land?" Tunde stared at him, broken. "Brother, after all we've been through." But Mobolaji stepped out of the doorway then, tying her wrapper tight. She smiled slightly. "You should be grateful we haven't taken everything." That day, something inside Tunde died. The warmth of brotherhood faded. The air between them turned cold. The village noticed. Whispers filled the marketplace. Lekan and Tunde know they talk again. Since he married that city girl, Wahala don't start. Elders tried to intervene. The family of Baba Ajani's younger brother called both of them one evening. Under the big mango tree, they sat, heads bowed. An old uncle, Pag Badigasin, coughed and said, "My sons, your father left this world trusting you. Is this how you repay him? Fighting over land like enemies?" But Lekan snapped, "Is it not my land? I'm the first son. Let Tunde go and look for his own." Tunde shook his head slowly. If Baba knew this would happen, he would have sold the land himself before dying. The meeting ended in silence. That night, as the Harmattan breeze blew through the compound, two brothers, once best friends, slept under different roofs, with different hearts, and only fate knew the storm that was coming. The days following the failed family meeting were quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that warned of a storm no one could stop. Tunde no longer visited his brother's side of the land. He stopped calling. He stopped hoping. Lekan, on the other hand, was becoming more arrogant. He began erecting a bamboo fence around his portion of the farm. He hired boys from a neighbouring village, young, rowdy men, with no respect for tradition, to help him patrol the land. And Mobolaji. She sat at the centre of it all. Wearing fine ankara and gold earrings, she'd walk to the boundary and laugh as Tunde passed. One day, she even threw words at him. "Na poor man they talk peace. If you get land, you go defend am too." Tunde ignored her, but inside, his heart bled. One evening, while washing his feet outside, his mother's old friend, Mama Ronki, came to sit beside him. "Tunde," she said gently, "your eyes no longer shine. Your father will not rest well if this continues." Tunde shook his head slowly. "I don't know what to do again, Mama. My brother has changed." Mama Ronki patted his back. "Pray, don't let bitterness enter your heart. Vengeance is the work of the gods." He nodded, but something told him, deep in his chest, that something evil was already on its way. It was a cool Saturday morning when Lekan showed up at Tunde's house, uninvited, unannounced. He was dressed in a clean white kaftan, his brown sandals shining like he just polished them with spit and confidence. He stood at the entrance of Tunde's compound, arms wide open like old times. "My brother," he called out with a wide grin. Tunde, who was just coming out of the kitchen with a kettle of hot water, froze. "Lekan?" he said, confused. Lekan laughed. "Yes now, or have you forgotten the sound of your elder brother's voice?" Tunde didn't answer immediately. Lekan walked closer and embraced him tightly. "I came to make peace, Aburo. Let's go to the market bar. Let's drink together, like the old days." Tunde pulled back and stared at him. "Just like that?" "Yes," Lekan said. "Forget the land. Forget the fight. Life is short." Tunde hesitated, but then he remembered Mama Ronke's words. Don't let bitterness enter your heart. He nodded. Okay, let's go. As they walked through the village path to the market bar, a few neighbours whispered among themselves, "See them. Maybe the quarrel done end." God done touch their heart. But what no one knew was that one of them was carrying death in his pocket. The market bar was a busy place that afternoon. Old men played draft in the corner, young boys watched football through a dusty television, and traders drank cold burukatu from reused plastic cups. Lekan and Tunde sat at a wooden table under a shed. They ordered a bottle of palm wine and a plate of nkwobi. "Aye, this reminds me of the days we used to steal chicken from Baba's pen," Lekan said with a laugh. Tunde laughed too, and Mama would beat us with broom. They drank, joked, and even toasted to new beginnings. It seemed, for a moment, that the past had melted away. That maybe, just maybe, the fire was dying, but it wasn't. It was just beginning. After finishing one cup of wine, Tunde stood up. "I need to ease myself. I'll be back," he said, casually. Lekan nodded. No wahala. But as soon as Tunde turned his back, Lekan reached into his kaftan pocket and pulled out a small brown bottle. He looked around quickly. No one was watching. Or so he thought. Inside the bottle was a fine white powder. Poison he got from a roadside herbalist in town. He poured it into Tunde's drink and stirred gently, his hand steady like a surgeon's. He smiled to himself. After today, the land will be mine alone. Then he stood and walked off, pretending to go ease himself as well. But he didn't know. He wasn't alone. Under the mango tree across the street, sitting in the dirt, was a madman. Dirty, dreadlocked, laughing and humming to himself. Woli Agbai. Everyone thought he was insane. They often threw leftover bread at him, but no one knew his mind was clearer than most. He had seen it all. He had seen Lekan pour the powder. He had seen the bottle. He had seen the deception. And Woli Agbai, mad as he seemed, decided to act. He stood up, walked over slowly to the table, with quick, practiced movements. He swapped the two drinks, then disappeared into the crowd, humming a strange melody. "Those who dig grave for their brother, may they fall into it first." Tunde returned to the table, smiling. "Ah, that toilet no get shame at all." Lekan returned shortly after, wiping his face. They both sat, picked up their cups. Lekan looked at Tunde and smiled. "To peace," he said. Tunde raised his cup. "To family." And they drank. 3 minutes passed, 5 minutes, then 10. Suddenly, Lekan coughed, then again, and again. He dropped his cup, his face twisted in pain. Ah, my stomach, my chest." He fell forward. People around screamed. Tunde stood up in panic. "Lekan, brother, wetting happen." Lekan groaned on the floor, writhing. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth. Someone shouted, "Get Keke, carry him go house." Tunde and some men lifted him into the tricycle. But before they reached the compound, Lekan died. The moment Lekan's body dropped lifeless inside the Kikenepep, the air around the village shifted. There was no thunder, no wind, but the weight of silence screamed louder than 1,000 drummers. By the time they reached his compound, Lekan was gone. Mobalaji ran out in panic, her wrapper tied carelessly. Her scream pierced the sky. She wailed, fell on the floor, and beat her chest violently. "Ah! My husband! My crown! My protector!" She threw sand over her head and cried loud enough to wake the ancestors. Villagers rushed to the scene. Children climbed windows. Market women abandoned their stalls. But even in the confusion, All eyes slowly turned to one person, Tunde. He stood still, frozen. Tears gathered in his eyes, but his mouth refused to move. He was in shock, in pain, in disbelief. How could it be? They had just laughed moments ago, toasted to peace. Now, his elder brother was gone. Within the hour, the elders were called. 3 white-haired men arrived with their walking sticks and sat on the carved wooden bench in front of the Ajani compound. Mobolaji was still crying beside Lekan's lifeless body, now covered with a white wrapper. The oldest elder, Baba Adio, cleared his throat. "Tunde," he said sternly, "you and your brother were last seen together. What happened?" Tunde tried to speak. His voice cracked. "We went to drink. We laughed. I don't understand." "Did he complain of any sickness before today?" asked another elder. "No, sir." "Did he eat something different?" "Number." "We shared everything." Mobolaji suddenly stood, her eyes swollen, and shouted, "He poisoned my husband." Gasps filled the compound. Tunde turned sharply. "What?" "You were jealous of his success," she continued, pointing a shaking finger. "Since our marriage, you've hated him, and now you've killed him." Tunde staggered backward as if slapped. People began murmuring, "He was the last person with him." They drank together. Maybe he planned it. Tunde raised his voice. "I swear on Mama's grave, I didn't do anything. I loved my brother." But the whispers turned into suspicion. That night, the village buzzed with rumours. Some believed Tunde was guilty. Others believed there was more to the story. But the truth was buried, for now. The next morning, the sun rose gently over the rooftops. At the market square, as women laid down their wares and men haggled over goat meat, a familiar figure wandered barefoot, talking to himself. Wali Agbaye, the madman with a distant gaze and tangled beard. But this time, he wasn't just humming his usual gibberish. He was chanting a strange proverb over and over again. "The one who pours poison in peace shall drink his own death in pride." Some traders ignored him, others laughed. But one man, Alhaji Danladi, the local chemist, paused. He watched Wali Agbaye with careful eyes, then asked gently, "Baba, what are you saying?" Wali turned, his voice suddenly clear. "I saw it all. The one with clean kaftan put death in the drink, but the hands of justice are quicker than man's plan." Danladi frowned. "Which kaftan?" Wali whispered. "White. And proud." Then he dipped his hand into his dirty bag and brought out a small brown bottle, half crushed, but still labelled faintly with strange writing. The chemist took it. His eyes widened. This was no ordinary drink bottle. It was laced with traces of toxic residue. He ran to the elders. Within the hour, the story spread like fire on dry bush. The madman saw it. The madman knows the truth. And suddenly, the one the village mocked became their only hope for justice. Even before the village cock crowed the next morning, word had spread. The madman saw it all. Elders summoned an emergency meeting under the village almond tree. Mothers left their pots on fire. Farmers returned from half-tilled land. Tunde sat in the middle of the circle of elders, his eyes bloodshot, his clothes rumpled, and his lips cracked. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten.